This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
That I would wear the blackface?
That you were the one that did.
It's not blackface
that is
if
true.
it's for military exercises. You're not playing black man, you're playing army man. That's a different thing. You're ignorant. That's what this is. I'm sad that I have to explain that.
One of the parents was mad. That's all I'm going to say. Out of the 3 houses we got to.
Wow.
That was why I had to ask. Yeah.
This episode is made possible by our deity, the Dark Lord himself, Jim's Fascia,
Fascia.
Faja.
and our therapy partners, Dirty B and Pickett. From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Pod Therapy. Real people, real problems, and real therapists. You can submit your questions anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. Broadcast from the chair, and that's Jim, that's Whitney, I'm Nick. It's time for some Pod Therapy.
Welcome, everybody. We are enjoying this year so far. I hope you are as well. I have survived my trip to Death Valley.
Woohoo.
Now they just call it the Valley, Nick. 'Cause
Whitney's
I got
a
out of
vandal.
there. Yep. Whitney
am.
admits to
Another
vandalism.
one. More car thievery before.
Jeez.
Yep.
Now we're toilet papering
And
houses.
Nick's lost all control of his life.
I'm doing very well.
He's on the up and up.
Since
Yeah.
finishing the entire thing of Milano's?
I did not.
There's 2 left. You want one, Jim?
I'm good. I have something going
Jacob?
on.
Enough there for each of you to have two.
I had my 2.
Nick had all of them.
I had my
took
2.
all of my 2. Anyway, patreon.com/therapy if you'd like to enjoy the pre-show hangout, get to know us a little bit better, and support a good cause.
And this
by
week is a
supporting the show.
great week to go
It was
listen.
a fun week. We got fun gifts from our intern.
Yep.
And some delicious whiskey and toys and all sorts of fun stuff. So patreon.com/therapy. Thank you for supporting our show. We've got some great questions, and we're leading off today with being scammed by my terminally ill sister from Tina.
This doesn't sound complicated at all.
Yeah, I feel like we've had
gonna be
this theme a
easy.
few times now.
This seems like an easy one.
This has come up. All right. You answered my question back in episode 184 about my terminally ill sister who's been, quote unquote, dying for 14 years now.
I remember this one.
And I think we've even had another follow-up question. I think this might be
Really?
the 3rd installment on this series. I confessed feeling guilty for wishing she'd just pass, and you gave me the term compassion fatigue, which helped me understand my emotions. Since then, I've been in therapy, though it feels more like comic relief for my therapist than real help. He did, however, suggest my sister's behavior aligns with facetious disorder. She's been manipulating and lying about her condition. While I accepted her living with me, I started setting boundaries, which led her to retaliate with a slander campaign. She painted me as abusive and narcissistic, leaving me to fend off family and friends who believed her lies. Living with her was maddening. She spent money frivolously, neglected responsibilities, and leaned on me for everything, while claiming to be too sick to function. She'd go disc golfing and partying. The breaking point came after 2 major incidents involving her dogs and fabricated health crises. I finally had to kick her out after years of sacrifice, but now I'm haunted by guilt and anger, especially at myself for not seeing her manipulation sooner. I prioritized her over my own child and health, and now I'm left untangling the mess she left behind. How do I move forward when my family sees me as the villain, and I'm grappling with paranoia about being manipulated again? I love the show and value all your insights, even Jim's. Adding Whitney was a great choice.
Yay.
While I'm not a Patreon yet, I'll be toasting you with a glass of whiskey for all your help. Woo. Thank you
Hey,
for
we
all
have a
you
glass.
do, Tina. Did that letter sound familiar?
No.
Okay,
Yes.
good. Maybe just because I read them, like when we first
Yeah.
get them. But
Maybe.
we've never done it
to
on the
this.
show.
This letter right here, specifically.
Yeah.
No.
Okay,
No.
good.
I do remember. I
first
do
one.
remember the first one.
Okay, good.
Yes.
I think
Yeah, I'm having deja vu.
I know. I was just going to say, I think you said facetious disorder.
What is it?
Factitious.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was going to ask what facetious disorder was.
I was like, factitious.
I had noted the name facetious
You're like-
disorder. I'm going to have a follow-up question about that.
Good. Look at Jacob listening.
I think Jacob has facetious disorder.
Not a
Make it
disorder.
up.
It's not
Feature
maladaptive.
not above.
So, factitious disorder, a mental disorder in which a person without a malingering motive acts as if they have an illness by deliberately producing, feigning, or exaggerating symptoms purely to attain a patient's role.
And you did that all from memory, too.
Man,
That's
Yes.
that's
amazing.
really
You're
impressive.
Yep.
That's how you
I just
pass the
knew.
board exams, kids.
Boom.
That's
Wicked
how
smart.
it's done. Wicked
Not even
smart.
a
While you guys are answering this, I'm literally going through previous episode titles because I
Oh my
feel like
gosh.
I've heard this question, but I'm sure I will
I don't
convince
Yeah,
remember.
myself.
no, we-
Well, while you look
we
that
have
up.
So, Ryder, Tina, here's the first thing I would do. One thing that I would kind of reframe a little bit is you're saying that you feel guilty, especially for not seeing the manipulation sooner. That, yeah, you could. I totally get that. And you would probably feel right to feel that way. Another way of looking at this is that you gave her another honest chance.
Yeah.
You know, you weren't sure, because I do remember talking about that in episode 184, because I remember everything. No, I actually do kind of remember a little bit about this letter. And I remember kind of, it was difficult to kind of answer, you know, because we're like, well, we do want to be compassionate. We do want to, you know, help her out a little bit, but you have
only
to
have
have
so
really
much to
solid,
give, yeah.
you have really solid boundaries. And,
Yeah.
and I guess for me, I admire you for having given it another chance, for trying to work with her. You did your best. You know, I don't think you should really feel guilty about that. For not recognizing it sooner. I think you did recognize it. You know, you just gave her the benefit of the doubt, and it didn't work out.
Yeah, you're just a caring and kind person.
Yeah.
To say, like, I want to give them
Yeah.
that extra chance.
And I hope that you've learned through this to not be a caring and kind person, because
That's
it just
the
does it does
failure.
not pay off.
You wasted
The
so
earlier
much
you
time.
learn that, the better off you'll be.
Jacob immediately, yeah. Exactly. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
This is tips I can get behind.
That's what she said.
Tips I can get in front of.
No, I think that's a good point Nick's making. You know, definitely I've told clients that, like, ways to kind of reframe a situation is I'm a kind enough person that I give people those second chances, and we can't control what others do with that. We just have to feel okay with what we do with it. It's kind of like giving, oh gosh, I might regret this. It's kind of like giving homeless people money, in my opinion. Some
Wow,
people
you're
will
a
say,
monster.
I know.
Just filled with hate.
Jesus. What are you going to do next? Throw toilet paper at him? Piece
They
of
need
garbage?
it. They need the toilet paper.
You want to kick my dog too?
Okay, the dog didn't need to be cooked. You're right. No, I actually
Leave it in the house.
give, not like every single time, but I give money to homeless people because I'm just like, I don't care. That in some ways, selfishly, it makes me feel good. I that's the type of person I am. I don't care what they do with it. I don't care if they use it on drugs or what. Like, that's their prerogative. It's just something I feel like is of value for me. And so for you, I think reframing it like that, it says more about you that you give those chances. And like, we can't control what others do with those, but you did set that boundary eventually. And it's like, yeah.
Yep.
You kicked her out. That takes a lot to set that boundary. Once someone is in your home that is your sibling that is sick, like, I don't know how you get to the point where you ask them to leave. Like, that is powerful and very strong of you.
And it does definitely paint the picture to everyone else that maybe you're the bad guy. But,
Sure.
But here's the thing, like, of course you look like the bad guy to the people who aren't involved and are not helping.
Yes,
Right.
go live with them. She can go live with them if they want. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
are you going to
that's-
be the good guy?
I definitely empathize with that, you know, Tina. That's really tough to have that, you know, image, I guess,
Yeah.
from other people.
And your family's not going to understand that. Like, you only will because you were living with her and had that experience, and your feelings are valid, and all of that is truthful. And again, just like we can't control your sister, I mean, you can't control your family members either, like what they think of you. And that's,
Right.
and everything doesn't make it a whole lot easier, but sometimes remembering that I'm not responsible for other people's emotions can be very freeing, at least for some of the time, and not just carrying that weight and guilt around with you. Like other people think I'm a monster. I deal with that when Jim tells me that every
I think. quick poll the studio. You get nodding heads. Yeah, you're polling very well. I realized why this letter was ringing so many bells. So Tina had written a very extensive letter. It was probably about 4 or 5 pages.
Okay.
And there were so many examples of just all the bullshit that that the sister has done. And this incident with the dogs was a nightmare where like the dogs like shit all over the place and like it got kind of swept up in the air conditioning and like the whole house just reeked of it. Just like a lot of disrespect, just tons of disrespect, a lot of entitlement. And just Tina getting this place of being like, look, I love you and I want to take care of you. But this is abusive at some point. Like you're just taking advantage and then constantly mischaracterizing, right? So like when Tina tries to push back and establish boundaries, sister goes to family and weaponizes family to turn them back on Tina.
Oh my God.
And then is like, oh, they're like, you're being terrible, Tina. Like you need to be accommodating. And Tina's like, somebody needs to stand up to her. And it's like, well, don't you understand she's going through it? It's like, she's been going through it for a decade. Like, these two things they are not mutually exclusive. Like they can coexist, right? We can have boundaries like you would anywhere. Like if you're going to stay at a hotel, you can't just let your dog shit all over the place and then be like, oh, but I'm dying. Like, no, I'm sorry. This is still a hotel. Like those two things are not related. Like if you'd like to stay here, every full stop, this is what is required to stay here.
Yeah.
So like Tina, I had taken the letter and kind of condensed it down into like something we could read on the air. And that's why my brain was like, wait a minute, what? I've read this. And it's like, yes, Jim, you did. You edited it. But anyway.
Hey, good for you.
Yeah.
For editing that.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that.
The fear about being manipulated again.
How Jim done learned a thing.
I did read it.
That's why it sounded familiar. I read it.
My learned a thing is a revelation of something I've already done. Yeah, that counts.
Oh my gosh. The part where you mentioned like feeling paranoid about being manipulated again. The route, and I don't know, I would appreciate any input. Maybe I've just been steering all my clients wrong this whole time, probably. But this reminds me of when I have clients who are in unhealthy relationships and then they try and start dating again and they're like, how do I trust? Again, how do I know if someone's telling me the truth? I mean, that person seemed really nice and kind for some time and then turns out they were a shithead. So what I usually try and tell them is we think back through some of those situations. And this isn't to victim blame, to say, oh, you should have seen these things. But like, let's look back and try to learn whatever we can from certain things that happened. Were there things you noticed before? And so you're able to go back through from what Jim just said, these are all of the examples of where I felt walked all over, taken advantage of. And that's where we're going to learn moving forward. And when you have those same feelings coming up that same like pit of your stomach or middle of your chest or, fist clenching, whatever is happening first, and we start feeling like, hey, I'm being taken advantage of, that's when you're going to check in and say, this is familiar. Let me evaluate now. It doesn't mean automatically that person's taking advantage of you, but it gives you a cue to like check in with yourself. So I don't know. It's almost like learning how to like, look, I have I'm more powerful now.
Yes.
Like Thanos.
Well, right. Who did nothing wrong, who remains innocent in the eyes of the jury.
Thank you.
No, but I'm with you on that. I like that we're giving ourselves permission to notice the offense and to feel that urge, but also permission to question it a little bit and to come internally and think, okay, let me just, let's put this on trial, right? Let's put the thought on trial. Because this is also something that can go wrong with siblings, right? Is like we can have so many times been punched in the gut by this person and the offenses go all the way back to childhood. And so we are a little bit sensitive to it. And like we read a lot into things. And this is another thing that's really tough. It's just like when you were kids, like the first one to report to mom. And then they're like, mom's like, what? And like, I didn't do anything. I didn't touch them. And it's like, yeah, but you were putting your finger in front of my face saying I'm not touching you. It's like you were provoking me. But yeah, letter of the law, you can report like you did nothing.
Right.
But our unique sibling dynamic, I know what the fuck you were doing.
Right.
Right. And you do too.
Even hockey has 2 minutes for instigating.
Yeah. Like, come on.
They're like,
same
we're
thing
making
here.
our way over.
And so like, same thing where I
mean, it doesn't get called very often, but sure.
It exists on the books.
It's on paper.
Yeah. And so like, I can appreciate that it's a very complex interwoven relationship with siblings. Another thing I see a lot in therapy that I think is always fascinating is whenever you see like a dyad, like they have this enmeshment, they have this unique relationship, and the things they're arguing about, like you can see how the center of the conversation is being pulled way over to one side.
Yeah.
And you're sort of like, that's the balance, like the middle ground between, like, why are you agreeing with all their absurd points?
Yeah.
It's like to put a point on it that'd be ridiculous, but illustrates the idea, like an abusive spouse, right? And it's like he's hitting her, and then you're like, okay, so clearly the middle ground is don't fucking hit her.
Right.
But somehow, because they're so used to the abuse and she's put up with it for so long, the middle ground is don't close your fist. Like, okay, I do understand sometimes you know, slap me because I'm talking too much, but like you shouldn't keep hitting me. And it's like you want to grab me like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, no, we're not joining him way over on that side of this ledger.
Yeah.
He's so far off in wrong land.
Yeah.
But like you get used to their toxic thinking.
Yeah.
And you're always squabbling with them about it. So then you get pulled all the way over there. So that when you start to depart back to normal land, like they're looking at you like, wow, you're demanding so much of me. Not only should I have to not let my dog shit all over the place, now you want me to pay you rent. Now you want me to not leave
Clean
the door
up after
open whenever I'm
myself,
drunk
do
and
my
just
own
like leave it.
dishes.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, then you seem like you're being extreme because you're pulling so far away from what's become the norm. But what's become the norm is so ridiculous Wonderland bullshit that like you need to go all the way back over. Yeah, no, you've allowed the conversation to float way too far into this like myopic thing. And you'll see this with like enmeshment families or couples or siblings where like they've been putting up with nonsense for so long. Or we see this a lot in addictions work too, Nick, where it's like the standards have gotten so low that like, look, I'm just asking you not to drink and drive with the kids in the car, okay?
Yeah.
And we're like, or how about not drinking and driving? Or I'll do you one better, not drink at all.
Yeah.
Like seeing as how this person lost their job. And or like same thing. It's like, oh, I just, you know, we drink so much at home and lost his job. He's on his third DUI. And, you know, I just wish that he would, you know, not leave his cans all over the place. And it's like, how did we let the standard get that far? Like, we need to change this entire conversation. That's a lot of where this letter kind of went so crazy that you're like, dude, you guys have allowed this to drift way off the road. And like, it's going to take a big brazen act to pull it back. But now whenever Tina pulls it back, the family's like, whoa, you're pushing too far. You know, they've been through a lot. And it's like, yes, but I've allowed this to become crazy town.
Yeah.
Like my house is covered in shit.
Yeah.
That's not okay.
And you really aren't obligated to help your sister at all. You just
Right.
chose to do that, which is very kind of you. Let me just say, to start with, to allow someone into your home with their animals and all that, whether they have a terminal illness or not, that is a huge sacrifice that you made.
Yeah. And, you know, obviously there's all these middle grounds too, where it's like, if the animals, you know, they're animals, right? And like, I own a dog that we've had her for over a year. She still pees, you know, like we're working on it, but it's frustrating. But you can still require the owner to do their part, you know, and to be proactive
How long
about it.
are dogs, like when do they become house trained
Dude,
or
mine
whatever?
should have been house trained in the first 2 weeks.
I don't know the rules around. I've never
Yeah,
had a
not
dog.
that long.
No.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Not a year?
No,
No.
mine's way overdue. And I think that my discipline policy is not working because like we keep having these long heart-to-heart conversations. I don't think she gets it. And like I leave little encouraging notes. I'm like, hey, really
You
proud of
leave
Have
you.
you
little
tried-
treats for her when she pees
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
house.
Well, when she pees, I
Have you
put a
tried
slightly
putting on her
smaller
level?
treat. Yeah.
When she pees on the floor, he only gives her a slightly smaller treat than he would
I
otherwise.
put treats
She gets
everywhere
it.
she didn't pee. And I think it's starting to,
Yeah.
she's getting it. And she's like, oh, so like you didn't put one in the piss puddle. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, because that was a bad thing.
That one little circle is
Yeah.
Have you considered letting the man of the house maybe try to train the puppy?
Maybe my son can do it. Yeah. He has his own notes, but I think he's too stern. You know, I just like, she's just a baby. You know, she doesn't know.
just a
She needs to be
baby.
held. So anyway, Ryder, don't take tips from me on how to establish boundaries. My chihuahua's walking all over me. But I do like all the feedback I'm hearing from y'all about like, you can't be responsible even for what your family members think of you. And it's tough going against the jury of your peers when it's like they're saying, I can't believe this. And it's really hard.
Feels
because,
worse when you did sacrifice so much. I know that
Right.
has got to I would get under my skin. Like, how dare you?
Right.
Yeah. So, any advice on how to deal with the rest of the family?
Gosh, you know, it's so tempting to appeal to them, right? And be like, let me explain everything. And I understand that, and I think there's room for that. But at some point, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you're not going to out-pity story your sister who has this terrible condition. And anything you say, she's going to have a refutation. They weren't there. And you're going to drive yourself crazy seeking some kind of verdict from the family to have permission to what you always inherently had permission to do, which is to establish boundaries in your home. And at the end of the day, your sister does not answer to the family. She answers to you, the landlord.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. And if the family approves or doesn't approve, or if they think you're being too strict or not, fine. Maybe I am. Maybe I am too strict. Maybe I have way high standards and higher standards than anybody else in the family thinks is reasonable.
Yeah.
But this is my home. I live here. And if you would like to share this space and you're down on your luck and you need support, I love you and the door is open, but it is conditional. And these are my conditions. Meet them, or I'm unavailable to host you. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Yep.
Tell them to go kick rocks.
I mean, I'm kind of thinking, me personally, I wouldn't really try that hard to try to convince my family. I wouldn't. I just, okay, well, that's how you see it, and then that's it. And then, whoever the next family member is that takes in the sister.
That's what I was going to say.
Like,
Let me know once she goes to live with you. Call me then.
I'll give you tips.
Yeah.
And, there's an old saying, too, like, never take criticism from someone you wouldn't take advice from.
Oh, I like that.
And so, I mean, think about that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one, Tina.
Good one.
And you've been a real champ. And, if you, I mean, I read, the longer version of this. And it's a shit show, my friend, literally, unfortunately. And so, there's a lot here. I think that your letter was, overwhelmingly right, except the part about adding Whitney was a great choice. Today's actually her last
She can
day.
take it back.
So, shit. Awkward.
Shit, it's January. We have to do annual reviews.
Oh, that's right.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, that's right. We got to get those fired up.
Yeah.
But if you drop all your HR obligations, we'll give you 5 stars. Your father's dick has been in there. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're discussing asking a new doctor for old meds. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Today's episode is brought to you by Robert Brownie Jr., Men's, Kayla Lansbury, Kevin Chamberlain, Ben Stanley, Adam Hathaway, Dan Martin, Lib, Heyo, and Andrew Langmead. And if you would like to sponsor the show, become a therapy producer at patreon.com/therapy. All right, got some fresh trivia in from Emma.
Oh, I watched 12 Angry Men.
Oh, yeah. You finished it.
Yep, I did watch it.
Us.
It was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know about
Now
the
you get
perfect
out.
film.
You for Zion.
As I recall, that was...
You for Zion.
I'm doing my part, okay? Make
You
these
for
idiots...
12
He's going to
Angry
finish
Men.
the rest of the show by yourself.
Yeah.
Everyone
Haven't
go.
watched Citizen Kane yet. Haven't watched City of God. But I'm working my way through
Okay.
film. I'm taking suggestions, guys. I'm doing new things.
I saw
The calendar's on the way.
Okay.
It's on the
I
way.
saw Cabaret
It's on the way. I
live this
ordered it.
week at the Majestic Repertory Theater here in beautiful
Oh.
Las Vegas, Nevada. I saw their new production of Cabaret, and it made me think
one of my
about.
friends went to that.
Oh, nice! It made me think about the Fosse movie that I recommended to you, the Cabaret.
Bob Fosse.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
the Fosse's Cabaret movie with Liza Minnelli. Another great movie musical. Anyway,
That
go
is
ahead.
so funny. I had a client this week say they watched that movie for the first time.
Oh.
It's just random. I've never watched it, but
Yeah.
they were like, "Oh, it was ironic with
I
everything
think
going on."
I think it's the best version of that story.
really,
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it is told better in that movie form than it is on live stage.
Jim, what is the most watched TV series finale of all time in the United States?
Buzz.
Can I,
Two
if
points on
I
the
shoot
fly.
for 2? Okay. Let me shoot for 2. And I'm going to take Seinfeld.
A good guess.
That is a
All right.
really good
Now,
guess.
can Whitney pick up the dribble on this one and
Sure.
go for a rebound?
For all I care.
Most.
Since we're making up the rules
Yep.
right now.
Right now.
This is fun.
I don't get options.
No, if you pick it up off the dribble, otherwise.
Okay.
No, because I want you to guess at it
You want me
because
to
I want to
guess?
guess at it without options too.
Man, the most watched TV series of all
Finale.
time.
Series
Finale.
Yeah.
Friends.
No.
Ooh,
Good
shit,
guess,
that was a
too.
really good guess.
My guess is MASH.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well done.
All right, I'll take those 2 points.
Whitney.
Thanks for the help, buddy.
Shit. I did not realize how this game worked.
In which country is it illegal to own just one guinea pig because they are considered social animals?
Oh,
Aw.
that makes me want to get a second dog. I saw the picture you posted on Pod Therapy of your 2 dogs bundled up in their little coats.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, like, my dog needs a friend. I need to go get her a friend. And maybe that other
Switzerland.
dog could potty train her.
Oh wait, I can do options or no?
Yeah.
All right, options.
Switzerland,
Damn it.
Sweden, Japan, or Australia?
Australia, they probably eat them. so
I'll tell
don't
you
do
right
that.
now, I believe any of those options.
Yeah.
I know. I'm a little torn now between even though Switzerland was my gut.
Okay.
guess, but I guess I'll stick with my gut, Switzerland.
It is Switzerland.
Good guess. Nice.
Yeah, I would have gotten 2. Dang it.
Nice.
Oh well.
Jacob,
Yes.
what is the only letter not used in the name of any U.S. state?
Oh, my God.
Okay, let's see.
Oh, wow.
A. Yeah, that's just right out.
Yeah. Are you
All
gonna
right.
work your way through it? Yeah.
B.
Oh my.
Bama.
Yeah. Let's see. So the lesser used letters, we got X. That's in Texas.
New Mexico.
Y is
New York.
New York.
Kentucky.
Yeah,
Don't
Kentucky.
help him, Whitney.
Like New York.
Let's see. Q.
Oh, that seems right.
I think it might be Q. Yeah. Y, Alaska. Q.
It is Q.
All right.
Good job.
There's a Z.
Is there a Z? Because I couldn't think of it. Am I?
Where was Z? I just thought of it.
No. There's...
Arizona.
Oh,
yes,
in
yes,
it. Sorry,
yes,
I was
yes.
thinking
I
of
was like, I
starting
just thought
with
of it a
Yeah,
second
yeah.
ago.
You're right, Arizona. Yeah, I was like,
Okay.
All right.
I'm carefully scrolling so I don't see answers.
All right.
Sure you are.
Wait, does that mean I have 4 points?
No.
It does.
I got those first.
All right.
What is the coldest temperature ever recorded on Earth?
The number?
in
Yes.
Fahrenheit.
And I got to get it exact. I'm guessing.
In Kelvin.
Nail it.
I'm going to have to take options.
It's the coldest temperature recorded in stone.
That's
Oh my
that's a
god.
weight.
That-
Okay.
So that
But
was
you
the
have to
joke.
do the ratio.
Etched in stone.
Yeah,
is
you have
what
to
it
you have
is.
to do the transfer.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to put all these in Fahrenheit. A is negative 128. B, negative 103.5. C, negative 148.7. Or D, negative 86.4.
So this is lowest temperature anywhere.
Recorded
Yes.
ever.
Just
Oh,
lowest temperature recorded on the
Earth.
planet.
Well, it ain't negative 80 something. That was like Chicago's low this
Yeah.
week.
That's got to be with wind chill, though. I'll say B, 103.5.
All
I
right.
guessed 120.
Yeah, shit. Okay.
What
It
was
is negative 128.6. This temperature was recorded in 1983 at the Soviet Vostok Station in Antarctica.
Wow.
Louise.
I hear it gets cold there.
Yeah.
Chilly.
Specifically at the Soviet
Very
Vostok
chilly.
station.
Yeah, that one.
Okay, so my my sister's friend was in Antarctica. So she did like
Oh, yeah, she did the trip.
Yeah, so she was
Yeah.
there. She worked there. She
I have friends
lived
that
there
have
for
done
like
this, and I would really like to do
yeah,
this.
for like 6 months at a time. She's done it, I think, twice. And I told my sister to ask her if she'd be a guest on the show because I would love to have her
Yeah.
on and like interview her. And
That would be cool.
How cold was it?
also because Jim doesn't believe that anybody actually lives there. So it'd be really
Nobody
good.
lives there, Nick. They visit there.
Okay.
There are no Antarcticans.
All right.
The penguins, I mean, if you consider them people, and I don't.
Fair.
How dare you?
Yeah, no, they know.
How
what they
very
did.
dare you?
And back to the show.
All right, so right now Jacob's in the lead
By a lot.
Yeah, a commanding lead. we might
Yeah.
say. Asking new doc for old meds from Some Scoop. Your show does such important work. Thank you so much for having continued this project for so long and making it the amazing thing it has become.
Thank you.
Quick question.
You're welcome.
About asking my... Yeah, you should thank Jacob specifically. He keeps letting us in.
I was saying you're welcome for all of us.
Oh,
for
yeah,
sure.
no, yeah, it's just true. Quick question about asking my primary care doctor for specific medication. A number of years ago, I took a vacation at a facility in North Dakota.
Great.
It turned out to be a very rewarding experience. While I was there, I was prescribed a medication for my anxiety called gabapentin. Other medications were considered too strong and made me sleepy, but this calmed my anxiety just enough to allow me to continue to function normally. I've since moved to another state, Oregon, and have a new doctor. I asked him specifically for this medication, but he said he couldn't find this use for the medication in whatever databases he uses. I let it go at the time, but now I think it could be really useful for my current state. Am I wrong for asking for a specific medication like this? Do I need to find a psychiatrist to ask about this option? Keep up the amazing work. Fucking you all in the face. Some Scoop.
Woo.
Aw.
Is there
Okay.
harm in asking?
Yes. You could be shot.
There is no harm in asking.
It's
Make sure your
Alaska.
doctor doesn't have a gun before you ask.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Oregon. Never
Or-
mind. You're
yeah, exactly.
The Alaska of the United States. Wait, shit.
So gabapentin, my understanding, my little Grammy when she was in her 90s took this for neuropathy.
Yeah.
That's like where my mind goes first. And honestly, listening to you read through the letter, I have personally never heard of gabapentin being used for anxiety. So I kind of
Yeah.
hear what your doctor is saying, like
Oh, yeah.
a little bit. But again, I'm not a medical professional in that sense. Whenever I worked at the insurance company, we looked at medications and I learned a lot about them. I was just exposed to them more. So it was like very interesting to see how the psychiatrist that was on our team, our treatment team, would like mention certain meds or watching hospitals utilize these medications because
Right.
only for inpatient stays that I was looking at clinical for. But my understanding from like what I gathered, again, very much gleaning info from like information provided around me, was that gabapentin is like more prevalent in people actually coming off of substance use.
Yeah.
Is that
You
right?
see it a lot in detox.
And there's even a little bit of a risk of
Habit forming.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, like
Yeah.
habit forming. What are your thoughts?
So,
yeah.
gabapentin is not typically prescribed for anxiety. It's an anticonvulsant. So, it's typically used for like nerve pain, chronic pain. However,
Restless leg syndrome.
restless leg. So, we saw it a lot in like the halfway house, gabapentin, which
Because that's like withdrawal symptoms.
So,
that it's
well, not
treating,
so
or
much
what?
treating withdrawal at that point at the outpatient stage, but more
okay.
neuropathy. Like a
Oh,
lot
okay.
of them with chronic pain.
Yeah, anybody with chronic pain, because
Yeah.
you can't give them any other kind of pain medication. So
Diabetes
gabapentin
a lot
kind of became.
because once they start to
okay.
have neurodegenerate stuff. So like that was a big part of it. However, gabapentin is used off-label for anxiety.
Oh, okay.
So it's not surprising to me that at an inpatient facility where they do longer form evaluations, they probably had a psychiatrist on staff because it's residential psychiatric. It doesn't surprise me that they got creative and went to gabapentin. It's interesting to me that all other anti-anxiety meds were too sedating,
Yeah.
but that's probably because at a psychiatric facility, you're there short term. So they're not doing SSRIs or SNRIs, which are considered the first move for most anti-anxiety treatment. So what they would have given the writer, Some Scoop, is probably benzodiazepines like Xanax,
Yeah.
or they would have given them antihistamines like hydroxyzine,
Yeah.
or they would have given him beta blockers like propranolol, all of which would have been pretty sedating at the time probably, and that's probably why they decided let's reach over. And they're probably also giving you other things for sleep and just kind of keeping the hall
Yeah, it's hard to
quiet.
tell what
They do that a lot
fault.
in psych wards, just kind of keep everybody with some fucking Benadryl in their system. Just let's all just quiet down and hug your
nap
blankies.
time.
It's nap time.
All day.
Yeah. Another one. I just okay. Yeah, just smell this rag. So they probably did give you gabapentin off label to try to touch down the anxiety while keeping you alert enough that they could, like have you engage in sessions. Now, once you move over to Oregon, it sounds like you went to an outpatient doc, right? And so you went to your regular primary doc, and your doc is right. If you look up gabapentin in the databases, that is not a standard issue use of gabapentin. And so the primary docs are usually not happy to get very creative with psych meds. They're not exceptionally trained on it. They're usually really happy to hand small supplies of a benzodiazepine for anti-anxiety, so like a Xanax or a Klonopin. They're usually happy to hand out an antihistamine like hydroxyzine because it's just an antihistamine. Like they know it's not that much fun. And so usually they'll give that out a little bit. But they want to give you first-line treatment. And so they want to give you SSRIs like Prozac or Zoloft, or they want to give you like SNRIs, things like that. So that's usually what they want to run with. If you want to get back to the gabapentin, you probably are going to have to ask your doctor for a referral, and they're probably going to have to send you to a psychiatrist, and you're going to have to loop around and start there. Yeah. However, Ryder, if you haven't already tried first-line treatments like SSRIs or SNRIs, I would really want you to give that a shot. Yeah. You're at an outpatient level now. You're in a whole new level of care. I think it'd be great if you could start with that, but you have to keep in mind, Ryder, they take like 3 weeks to a month to work. Now, most outpatient primary prescribers are happy to give you that medicine. I would encourage you to talk to them and see if they're comfortable with that, if that might address your symptoms to start with. Go there first and like try that out, do a full course of treatment, and then keep checking with your primary. And if you realize like I need something more acute, I need something like when I'm having an anxiety flare-up and I want to look at my options there, they're probably going to refer you up to a psychiatrist because, I mean, whether they want to do gabapentin or a smaller dose of like a benzo or, like a smaller dose of an antihistamine or whatever, they're probably going to want the psychiatrist to manage that because that's really more in their wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it can be habit forming though. I mean, it can be contraindicated for somebody with addiction issues, but I don't know. Like, did you ever see gabapentin get abused? We did have one guy. We had one guy that very creatively figured out how to like grind up a whole fucking bottle of it. And
I mean, I had clients snorting coffee.
That's true.
Yeah, I was about to say,
they've if there's a way to get high on a substance, they've found it.
Yeah.
And they would try anything.
Yeah, that's true.
If there's not a way to get high on the substance, they still try it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
You ever snorted a fire ant?
Yeah.
That's an old Aussie bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have seen it once. It was a person that had psychosis and they had gotten off their regular meds for a while and they just wanted to get high. And so they took all the gabapentin they were prescribed and started hoarding it and then snorted it. And I don't know what kind of high that gave them, but it was enough that I called an ambulance.
Yeah.
Flipped the fuck
911.
So can be done if you're so inclined, Ryder. But by the way, always I like these kinds of questions because I think it gives us a chance to highlight another big part of the arsenal, right? Another big part of treatment. And we're not anti-meds. We always want you to talk to your doctors. And a lot of times people are discouraged because I think you have to go see a psychiatrist for every little thing. And it's like a long wait a lot of times because psychiatry is a smaller, speciality. But this is a good letter because it reminds folks that your primary doctor is usually equipped to help. And they do have like a little database. It's, this laptop that basically just says best practices. Yeah. Like double check your work, right? Make sure you're giving this for the right reasons and it's not contraindicated. And they're usually very happy to give you something. So if you're out there and you're dealing with anxiety or depression and you're like, man, I don't know about getting all the way up to therapy. Maybe that's not accessible. I'm discouraged. I want to go see a psychiatrist. Go to your regular doctor and tell them they are like 9 out of 10 times they are equipped to get you something so you can walk out the door with some relief.
Yeah.
So it's always a good idea to look into that. But thanks for the questions, Scoop. I always like to get into psychopharm.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get my students to do a unit on that right now, and they're all rolling their eyes.
It's so hard. I didn't really know. It's kind of like another language to me where you can study it all you want, but it really wasn't until I was just every week we're doing reviews of people and their symptoms and meds and you start really connecting dots.
That's when you get
I learned
into
the
it.
most then. I was like really thankful for the boost in med knowledge now. It's been a while, so I have to refresh. But
yeah, it's something that a lot of therapists, and this is something I really want to change in our field. most therapists, I would say, are really uncomfortable talking about meds, and they don't feel like they're competent in it. They're well versed in it. It is like a different language to them. And only there's just those of us who have just had occasion to interact with that part of the field or worked in substance abuse where we're working with every fucking thing.
I know.
And we're shoulder to shoulder with doctors and nurses, and we're a big part of the treatment team. Then you get really well versed in all this stuff. And then you might start doing your own research and like trying to understand it better so you can treat your patients, especially if they're polysubstance abusers. But like, it's something that the field by and large doesn't know about. Yeah. And I really wish it was a core competency.
I know.
Yeah,
really
I wish it was something we could study. So at least with my students, I try to push them through those hurdles, which they don't appreciate because they're like, dude, this isn't technically part of the textbook. I'm like, we're off fucking script.
We're doing it anyway.
We're doing it live. Anyway, we're going to take
Did you get hired to be a professor here? No? Shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are discussing chronic pain. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Episode is brought to you by Robert Brownie Jr., Mintz, Kayla Lansbury, Kevin Chamberlain, Ben Stanley, Adam Hathaway, Dan Martin, Lib, Heyo, and Andrew Langmead. And if you would like to sponsor the show, become a therapy producer at patreon.com/therapy. All right.
My moment of redemption here.
Jimothy.
Let's go.
Which animal has fingerprints so similar to humans that they can confuse crime scene investigators?
Koala's final answer.
Nope, platypi.
I'm going to stick with koalas, but I appreciate the support. Give me 2 points. You bitch.
Alligators.
Fuck! I didn't even know they had fingers.
What? Is
They
that
don't
real?
think it's koalas.
I was going to be shocked at the koalas, but Jim was so confident. I was like, damn, I
knew it
didn't
was
know.
koalas.
Oh, I've never heard this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Their prints are nearly indistinguishable from human fingerprints under a microscope.
You learned something new.
Murdering koalas.
There have been instances of crime scene investigators collecting fingerprints, only later to realize that they were koala fingerprints.
They were in the murder database.
That they did it.
Probably not in the U.S.
No.
I don't think it was in the U.S., no.
Also, don't all
Also,
koalas...
I don't know for sure that the sentence I just said is true. Yeah. But I believe it is.
No, you said
saying
it
a lot of
confidently.
things.
Don't all koalas like have chlamydia or something too? Wasn't
think
there like
so.
some kind of weird epidemic of
Can we just
koalas
spread
with
a lot of
chlamydia?
information?
We're gonna
All
get a
that
letter.
stuff you learned.
Yeah, we're gonna get a letter from like the ACLU of koalas. They're like, hey,
Excuse
that's enough.
me.
What,
You're
if you type
slandering
in,
us.
why do koalas, it autofills with have chlamydia.
Oh, the more you know.
How do you know this?
Always wear protection.
Koalas likely caught chlamydia
When
from infected
banging it
sheep
out
and
with a
cattle
koala.
that were brought to Australia by European settlers in the early 1800s.
Yep.
Oh
Yeah.
my god!
Getting the clap.
So most, if not all, koalas do have chlamydia.
There it is.
Yep.
See? They get around.
Many
Little
man.
scientists suspect
fuckers.
that they
They
initially caught
get
it from
around.
exposure to the feces of infected sheep and cattle.
Yeah, that's what it
Ew.
was.
Okay,
Definitely
they were
that.
fucking the cows.
Yeah.
the koalas were out there just
Who
going to
wasn't
town.
fucking the cows? People keep pinning it on people because of the fucking fingerprints. They're checking the cows
This
for prints.
beef is so tender. It's
Yeah,
like
it
been being
is.
tenderized regularly
Yeah.
for years.
Oh, and I can't close my ears.
Shanks.
All right, Emma, your next assignment for trivia. We want STIs and animals.
Oh,
That's the next topic.
Yeah.
Well, koalas is kind of my main bit of knowledge there, so I'm in
Yeah.
trouble.
It's just
Okay.
all a koala chlamydia.
All right, Whitney.
My Google search is gonna look very odd before next.
Oh, my Google search is fucked. My Google search, and like the other week we were out of town and we were in the rental car, and I put my phone in and just had it play like my curated radio station that it creates for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
And SJ's in the car with me. She's like, "What the fuck are these songs coming out?" I was like, "I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know what inspired this
picked for
song."
me.
That's it. It was like all the crazy shit that I look up all the time, and all the crazy music that I play all the time.
Oh, I love it.
It just all follows me around. If I was smart, I'd have a professional account than a personal one, but I don't.
You got to pay to get that thing.
Never said I was smart.
No, nobody did.
Whitney, what is the only food that never spoils?
Buzz.
Twinkies. Just kidding.
Oh, that's probably it.
I need options.
Be there, Twinkies.
Honey, rice, salt, or vinegar?
Twinkies.
Honey.
Correct.
Yes.
Archaeologists have found edible honey
Edibles.
in ancient Egyptian tombs.
Wow.
Yes. After you said
It's
it, I was like,
edible,
I
honey.
should have guessed. That's all right.
All right, Jacob, what civilization was the first to use a calendar with 365 days?
Oh.
I was just.
Shoot from the hip, dude. You can do it.
I think. Is it Mayan?
Oh, that's got to be it.
No.
That's where I was
don't
at.
know.
No, hold on though. Hold
It's
on.
not.
I think I want options.
Ah, you pussy.
I think I want options.
All right, your options are Romans,
Yes.
Egyptians,
I'll be there.
Babylonians,
Be there.
Mayans.
It's Romans.
Do it.
I mean, it might be Roman.
Say
You said
my name.
Romans, Egyptians,
Babylonians.
fucking Babylonians.
Yeah,
They did
were
a lot of
ahead.
stuff.
They were ahead.
That's
They built
true.
Built
Towers.
that tower. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a big one.
That's something to be
They
known
were more
for.
into architecture, I think, is the bigger takeaway.
I think they had a lot of math though, because they did a lot of math to figure out the geometry.
Okay.
They studied,
Yeah.
the geometry of the stars and
All right.
everything.
Yeah, you might be onto something there. Yeah.
I've talked myself into it. I'll go Babylonians.
You dummy. It's Maya.
No.
What?
You're both wrong.
Damn
It's
it.
the Romans.
Is it Romans?
No, Egyptians.
It is Egyptians.
Really?
All right.
Yeah.
Which
That'd be
animal
cool if we
can
could switch
sleep
to that
for
one.
up to 3 years at a time?
Oh my.
Your mom.
Hey-oh.
Ah, stay down, Mom.
Well, she will.
Alligator.
3 years at a time.
Face
Alligators.
down. Yeah.
3
at a
years.
time.
An
That's a
animal.
long time to sleep.
I know there are instances. This can't be the answer to the question, but there are instances where they have found bacteria frozen in ice.
Oh, that might be
has
it.
been like frozen in ice for thousands of years.
Okay, if
You're right. That was not helpful.
And that came out of the ice. No, this is just an anecdote that has nothing to do with the question because it said 3 years. I know this is thousands of years, so
Yeah.
it's not the answer.
If you shoot from the
But like,
hip,
but then
though,
like came out of the ice and they were able to like get it back.
resurrect it.
yeah.
Wow.
If
Reinfect
you,
everyone.
If you shoot from the hip, I want to also take a shot at it. I
Well,
realize I
I'm
can't
not
have
going to
these.
shoot from the
Let
hip.
Jim
Bitch.
do it before
Can I
you
take
do.
a shot then?
No.
Okay.
You can only take a shot if you miss, it's -5 points.
I
Well,
feel
I'm
like
already
he can
gonna
take a
lose
shot and
anyway.
you
If I
can
get
still
it,
look
can I
Do I
at.
get those 5 points?
I don't even
I
have
don't
5
think
points
you
to
get 'em.
give.
Oh, I
think
know,
only
this is
have
what you
one
want.
point.
There's got to be some benefit to me.
I think if he
I'm gonna-
misses, you just get to answer the question.
I'm going to take options.
All right,
It's
go for
bear,
it.
snail, frog, or turtle.
All right, the one I was going to pick is not on there. So
Okay.
What were you going to pick?
Tardigrade.
I think that's up there with
That's
like
a slur.
bacteria.
Okay, that's a
No,
slur.
they're animals. I think.
I believe bacteria are also technically animals.
I don't fucking know.
I think they're in the animal
You're
kingdom.
probably right.
I'm going to go snail.
Oh, that
Snail's
feels
a good
right.
guess.
I would have gone
It's
frog.
Not going to
Turtle.
be bear, right?
Mine,
They can't
mine
go
would have been
through.
No,
turtle.
bear is too easy. I think
It
it's
is
frog.
snail.
It's snail.
Turtle was the other one I was thinking
Yeah.
because they
Turtle
get
felt
they're
safe.
they're so old.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know if they sleep a lot though.
Yeah.
It's a good point. They
Not for
move
like the
around.
long periods of time.
Yeah.
Snails can live for 3 years.
My next door neighbor. Have I talked about my neighbor's tortoise
You have not.
on here? Yeah, my next door neighbor has a tortoise that occasionally gets out.
Very rare, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
But
Is he hard to catch?
The desert tortoise.
I mean,
like-
I don't try to catch him.
I don't think
But
it'd be
the
hard.
other week, I came out of my house and the tortoise was underneath my truck.
Nice.
Oh my gosh!
He's just hanging out.
How big is this tortoise?
He's the size of a small Kia.
Under your truck.
Wow.
How big's your truck?
He's probably. I mean, he's what's that? About 2 feet across.
Wow.
Oh, wow. That's
okay.
a full ass.
Oh no, he's like a
Somebody-
tortoise.
He's a big
tortoise.
boy.
Yeah.
I was
I'm trying to find a picture to show you.
Yeah.
I was walking through downtown Summerlin and somebody had their tortoise
On
out
a
for
leash.
Oh,
walk.
yeah, yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
he's a
Great.
poker player. I think
Oh, is
he has
he?
a whole Instagram account for his
Oh,
tortoise.
that's
If it's the one I'm
fantastic.
thinking of, he takes him on walks
Everybody's
and like,
tortoise.
yeah. And I think he
so
lives in
cool.
Summerlin, is why I was
Yeah, that makes
thinking
sense.
that.
Vegas.
I'm gonna look
Oh,
at
there
this
he is.
account.
Vegas is lovely.
Bring him up.
I went to a tortoise farm once. Oh, that's a big tortoise.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
look at him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, he's a good size. He's a big guy. He's
Yeah.
like, I think he's 30 years old.
Okay.
What did he look like before you ran him over?
Yeah, that's sad.
Taller.
Yeah.
Do you have any pre-pictures of the post?
All right. So I'm in the lead.
No, he was visibly under my truck. He was never in any danger.
Oh, okay.
To all of you tortoise people out there.
Yeah.
Tortoise
No
lovers.
tortoises
Yeah.
were harmed in the making of pod therapy.
Apparently, it was his mating season.
Oh, he was on the hunt.
And so the neighbor said, yeah, he was out and about.
Looking
and
for that.
He got out of the fence.
Yeah. Looking for that
I
tortoise.
was on my way out, but SJ went
Yeah.
over and got him. And so the neighbor came out and collected him and put him back in the backyard.
Yeah. he was on the prowl.
He gets out about once a year.
Wow.
Once a year he breaks
warming
out.
up. He was cold.
That's the call of the wild, man. Can't keep him down. Last question of the show is about chronic pain from Pennsylvania Scoop. Hi, Pod Therapy. I have a question. I'm a former construction worker and a former oil field worker. I struggled for a long time, effectively living in my car for a time while working some of the worst jobs on earth. I won't bore you with the details, but
Thank you.
oil field work is wildly dangerous. I'm 38 years old with 2 kids and a wonderful wife. In the last 18 months, I've had 3 spinal surgeries.
Oof.
All likely a long-term result from those jobs. My last surgery was a spinal fusion. It is a terrible thing to experience. I felt a lot of relief. I can walk better and be a better father and partner. I still experience chronic pain. It's a lot. I have difficulty sleeping, difficulty doing a lot of routine tasks, constant muscle spasms, constant pain. I wake up nightly with sharp pain. I'm 38. I can't tie my shoes. I can't effectively shower alone. I can't put on socks. A lot of things are a struggle. I take narcotics and have been for the last 13 months. It is low level, taken at night and morning. It is not misused. My wife struggles with me still taking pain medication, despite the fact that my neurosurgeon and I both find myself in this terrible position. It's become a contentious thing. She thinks that my doctors are wildly irresponsible while I'm still struggling. I'm seeing interventional pain management to do anything, but I'm stuck in a chronic pain situation. Any ideas on how to navigate my situation with my spouse? I know she worries, but it's a struggle on all sides. Signed, Cody, the Pennsylvania Scoop.
God, that's
This takes me back.
miserable.
Oh, I know. Yeah, good Lord.
So we've talked about this before in the show, but Jim and I both worked at a clinic that basically specialized in treatment of opioid use disorder for people experiencing chronic pain.
Yep.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
called Chippendales.
Ooh.
Yes.
Chip away. Chip away.
Yeah.
I was the Chris Farley in the
Yeah, we were
I can
the,
tell their backs are breaking every night.
we were oil boys.
Yeah. You think you had it bad, Pennsylvania
Really
Scoop.
massage
Try
the
getting
pain
all
out.
oiled up while all these bachelorettes are snapping at you. You don't know.
No,
I did spinal taps every night. Bazing! Hey-oh!
So a book I would recommend. I'll recommend our old boss.
Like the Exxon Valdez over here.
Oh!
Check out A Day Without Pain
Yep.
by Dr. Mel Pohl, Pohl.
Good book. And there's a workbook that goes with it as well.
Yes, there's a workbook that goes with it. I think it'd be really good. There's a couple things in here that as you're talking, I can already hear Dr. Pohl and like some of the things that he would say, and one of the things, with the treatment, with the use of narcotics as a treatment for chronic pain, the big issue with that is like, you have to ask, what is the long-term plan here?
Right.
Right. Because inevitably there will be tolerance, which means that you're going to have to increase that dose.
Yep.
Which you will then become tolerant to, which means you're going to have to increase that dose.
Yep.
Now that may take several years to achieve, even if you're taking it responsibly.
Yeah.
But inevitably, it's at some degree, it's going to happen, maybe slowly, maybe quickly. But, what is the long-term plan with using opiates as you said narcotics, I assume that's going to be
It's
an opiate.
opiates, yeah.
What is the long-term plan with that, even if taking responsibly? And that's maybe a good conversation to have with your doctor about that. The other thing that I'm thinking about here too, 2 other points that I would encourage you to take a look at. One would actually be, to get into therapy.
No.
And because
Everybody drink.
There it is.
You got it, therapy.
He said it.
that's
Cheers.
true. All right,
Cling.
fine. But the issue with this, though,
Let the
too-
record show we did all take a
We
drink
all
Yeah.
took a sippy.
of our
Except
intern's
Nick.
whiskey.
Yeah, I'm talking. I'll get it in a minute.
All right.
I'll take 2 later.
That's fair.
Giggity.
We'll allow it.
And some Milanos.
But the issue with this too is like chronic pain isn't just the physical pain alone. There's the emotional pain that comes along with it. And I think that's where therapy can help deal with all of that. It's not just the issue that you're having chronic pain in your life. It's also the grief of having lost aspects of your life. And that part I think
true.
really needs to be dealt with because
It's a lot of loss.
absolutely. Yeah. And it can, by dealing with that, it will help help you deal with the physical pain. The third piece that I would talk about here would be exercise. Doesn't have to be anything intense, but a regular routine of movement, stretching, things like that can be incredibly helpful. One of the things that, Dr. Paul always would talk to us about is like, he'd use the example, like if I can only raise my arm up to this level, shoulder height, and it starts to hurt, then what am I teaching myself? I'm teaching myself not to do that. So now I'm only going to raise it up to my elbow. Okay, well, now it's going to start to hurt at my elbow.
Right.
So now my brain tells, okay, then don't do that. So now I'm just going to... So all you're doing is you're just slowly decreasing your range of motion over a period of time.
Right.
And so it's one of those things where you kind of have to understand and change your expectation. Yep, this is going to feel uncomfortable. This is going to hurt a little bit.
Right.
But we still have to kind of push ourselves to increase our range of motion as much as we possibly can, because if you don't use it, you will lose it.
No, everything you just said is spot on. And there, man, Paul taught us so much. I mean, and he had so many great notes.
And
on
please don't let him know that we're doing this.
No,
podcast.
don't even talk
This
to
is the
no. Don't,
biggest
don't.
secret. I
Yeah.
don't want him to know
Yeah.
that we do this.
For years, people have said like, "Oh, you
just
should get
texted
Dr.
him.
Paul on the show." I'm like, no.
We have a lot of respect for him.
Yeah, I really don't want him to even know.
So, like,
if he never remembers me, that would actually be great. Like, I'd like him to. That's fine. I would like to not exist.
No,
in his
Jim,
mind.
you're memorable.
Yeah, I know. I told you the story about how I offended him, right? Yeah, fuck. I bought him a pen. It's like I tried to apologize. I got him a
don't know
pen
this.
engraved.
Oh, yeah.
I guess. Oh,
Yeah.
fuck.
Go ahead.
What is
I
it?
guess
Now
we'll
I
do
gotta
that.
know. Go on.
Relive this.
Nobody
fresh
else brought
hell.
it up.
No.
Christ.
Jacob and I are all
So
ears.
I leave the first rehab I'm working at, West Care. I get this job with Dr. Pohl, and it's mostly to do this other halfway house program, but they also let me go to the pain program and help there. So I'm there. I'm kind of a new therapist. I'm trying to like stand out, and he does this staffing every morning, and it's like holding court. Like he just fills a room with therapists, doctors, nurses, and he goes over every patient through the census. He's very hands-on, very intricate, and I'm trying to like seem intelligent, which is a very heavy lift already.
Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then here I am surrounded
And
by
unrealistic.
geniuses. And so here we are, and we're going around the room, we're talking on cases, and we're all holding these little handouts with the patient's names and just data and stuff like that. And so he's like, okay, and we're wrapping up, and we're at the end, and he goes, does anybody, have any last comments before we wrap up? And I decide to like, God, again, so fucking naive. Like I'm fresh off of like my first HIPAA training.
Okay.
And I'm like, I think that this rounds paper is a HIPAA violation because it has all the identifying information of the patients on here.
You're like-
And we could just walk out with this.
Did you announce that at the meeting?
Yes.
Yes,
Good.
of course he did.
Good.
Yeah. And this is
I assumed the answer
his
was yes.
design.
Jim is like
I'm
the total
basically
opposite
saying,
of Jacob
I
at a
think
meeting.
you-
This is just what I'm thinking. Jacob
Yeah.
listening to the story like, I can't imagine. I
Yeah.
cannot imagine.
You know what I say in a meeting? Nothing.
nothing. So I'm
If it is a
sitting
meeting
here
of more than two people, I don't say
calling
a
out the
fucking word.
medical director in his own meeting,
Yeah.
saying I think
That he's violating
the
HIPAA
rounds-
regulations.
yes, that you're federally offending. And so he just
And you've been there
stared
how
at
long?
me in disbelief. Oh, first day.
Yeah.
This was first day, first meeting, brand new,
Yeah.
8 a.m. And so as I'm saying this, He is just staring at me in disbelief. Mel Pohl is not a subtle man. He will fucking fricassee you.
Dagger
he
eyes?
does not care. No.
Him.
And so he is staring at me because if it was anybody else, he would have just shit all over that person and humiliated them.
Right.
But he's staring at me because he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, he's
because
like, I don't know
he doesn't
you.
know who the fuck
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
I'm just some random kid. And he's like thinking about just doing a public execution of me in front of everybody. But then you see
Were
him
you in
just
this
think
room,
better
Nick?
of it.
I was not here for this.
Dang
He
it.
heard about it. And so, he just like decides to like, he looks over at this other guy, the director of operations, who is technically the guy who just hired me. And that guy's looking at him with pleading eyes, like, let the baby go.
Yeah, just sit with it,
fire him
ignore
now.
it.
Let him go. And so Mel just kind of like shakes his head and he goes, all right. Any other questions? Anything?
Yeah,
And like
we're gonna
everybody's
ignore
like,
you.
Respond to it.
nobody's
No.
making
Yeah,
eye contact.
good.
Everybody's looking down like, please just let it end. And he's like, all right, great, dismissed. I'll see you all tomorrow. And just gets up and leaves. And my boss just comes running over to me and he's
Just
like,
slaps you
get
across
in
the
my
back of the
office
head.
right now. And
You're
he
like,
pulls
I'm
me
about to
in.
get a pat on the back.
Yeah. And our boss, George,
At that moment, did you think at all that you were about to get a commendation?
I thought, no. I thought they're not even going to bother finishing my fucking paperwork. Like, there's no
Jim's
bad.
like,
not
why
gonna
am I
fire me.
sweating?
They're not going to
me
finish
out.
the intake. Yeah.
Yeah. And so my boss pulls me in and he's like, what were you thinking? And I'm like, that I was being helpful. He's like, I want to get this clear. You think that all of us have been violating HIPAA. You think that man has been violating HIPAA for the last 15 years since he founded this clinic? You think that's what's been going on? And he needed your fucking idiot ass to come in here with an intern license and tell us? I'm like, yes, I thought it. And he's like, no. So anyway,
gosh.
I'm so humiliated. I go and I buy Mel a really nice pen and I get it engraved with his name on it because I was so desperate to fix this. And so the next day, laugh
you were
into the
saying
mic,
coffee.
Tangerine. You can't hold your face.
I've never
It's a
seen his
podcast.
face look like I
Oh
was
man.
pushing
I
the
was so overwhelmed. I didn't know what to do. I panicked. I was so scared.
You are a dumb person.
So it was a really nice pen. It was like
I
a
bet it was.
$60 pen.
What did he say when
I
you
put it in a little
Nice
gift
fucking
bag.
pen, Jobin.
Yeah, I put it in
threw
a
it in
little
the
gift
trash?
bag.
I mean, at this
And,
point, he wasn't allowed to have contact with
I
us.
was
Yeah,
just
this
thinking
was
that there's no way
training
he's allowing you.
So I put it in a gift bag
He's like, I better not write anybody's health data with
Is
this
there
pen.
asbestos? I know.
just to help me sign the affidavit. So I put it in a gift bag with a little note that says, it's such an honor to get to work with you. Thank you so much for letting me be here. Or something
Please
to that
don't
effect.
sign my
Please
firing
don't fire
paper,
me.
my dismissal paper.
And so I you know,
So no acknowledgement in the note about your fuck up.
no, just trying to be
Not
like,
even like a,
I'm sorry.
hey,
I
sorry, I've got a
questioned
big
you.
mouth.
Sorry, I questioned your
Authority.
not even authority, your basic fucking competence
Knowledge.
not
Yeah.
to break federal law.
Ethics, I believe, is the
So,
word you're looking for.
I
I'm sorry, I
leave-
questioned your ethics.
I
Thank you,
leave the
Dr.
pen
Jim.
there, and basically, like I leave it on his desk or whatever. I see him later that day. He does not acknowledge me. He does not look at me, and basically, he goes to my boss and he's like, "Does Jim have to be here? Because like I was splitting time between." The halfway house and this nice clinic, and the halfway house is out in the hood. It's a public-private
That's why I
partnership.
wasn't at the meeting, because that was my office.
Yeah.
So I worked out at the halfway house.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, I'm like, God, I'm seeing you a lot more often,
Yeah,
Jim.
so the bosses are like,
And
we
now-
think you need to do some more training with Nick.
That's your
And I'm
origin
like,
story of
well,
friendship.
I really wanted to get
Hey.
used to the main clinic, and they're like, no, I think that
You're not
maybe-
gonna this week.
So I ended up getting reassigned in like that next day
Reassigned.
because so they told me you're going to spend the next 2 weeks just training with Nick. So they kicked me out. I just trained with Nick.
Yeah, good.
And then they changed my schedule so that when I'm back on their campus, it's only on weekends when Dr. Pohl is not there.
Perfect.
And so I went from having a sweet Monday through Friday job to fucking it up in the first week. And they reassigned me to weekends. And so then I had to work
Your wife
Saturdays
is
and
not
Sundays
surprised.
over there.
She's like, okay.
Yep. And then
Got
I
it.
was doing shifts with Nick on the regular week. And my days off were like Monday and Thursday or some shit to like teach
Oh
me.
my God. Not even consecutive
So that was
days
my
off.
first year. That was my first year.
Man.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
I remember I had an answer to this question that was related to Dr. Paul.
So
Some people
Jim,
think you get picked on too much. I argue that you don't get picked on enough.
yeah.
Jim doesn't want Dr. Pohl to hear this because he respects Dr. Pohl and doesn't want him to know that this is what we've sunk to. I don't want Dr. Pohl to hear this because I don't want him to know that I'm now doing a podcast with Jim.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's it. Honestly,
That checks out.
You've decided
The
to
greatest
enter business
achievement.
ventures with
my
him.
greatest achievement with Dr. Paul would be he forgets who I am.
That makes sense
I'm just
now when
working
you
to
say
get back
that.
to zero.
When you
That's
say
all
that, it
I
makes
want.
sense.
I don't want to be like, oh, you're that dumbass kid that gave me that pen,
You
right?
want him to see and be like, nice to meet
Yeah.
you for the first time
I
ever.
really
and you're
just
like,
want him to
yes.
forget me.
Yes.
Is this the real reason that you grew facial hair?
Yeah. It's just to go incognito. I'm just trying to
That's why
hide.
you always wear the hat and
It's a
large
witness
sunglasses.
protection. I just don't want to bump into him
Yeah.
anywhere ever. But yeah, he's a great resource writer. And, like a lot of what Nick's talking about, man, I remember just pain. Paul taught us so much, but one of the things he taught us was that our goal with the patients, when I, like in year 2 and 3, when I was finally like fucking allowed back in his program, and then I started like learning, one of the things he was teaching us was that the goal was not to eliminate the pain, because he was talking about there's only 2 pain-free states: death and general anesthesia.
Yeah.
Right. And so he'd say but neither of those improves your functioning.
Yeah.
And so he talked to us about how the goal with every patient was not to relieve them of pain, but was to teach them to have a different kind of relationship with their pain. And it goes back to what Nick was talking about. We naturally avoid pain signals. That's the whole fucking point. But whenever you have a chronic pain condition, by definition, what's probably happening is your body is giving false pain signals, because pain signals are meant to be temporary. They're meant to indicate damage or like, a breaking point, right? That you need to stop doing an action. Well, chronic pain is telling you about damage that you either can't do anything about at this point, or it's trying to stop you from functioning because it's afraid that you're overstimulated or you're overexerting. But at this point, you've evaluated your risk. You know that that's not the case. And so it becomes this mind over physicality thing where you have to renegotiate the relationship with the pain signals. And it's like living in a house where smoke alarms are just constantly going off. You have to accept that there is no smoke, and you somehow have to be able to increase your ability to function in that house despite the signals, not run from it, right? And so that's where Paul would teach us. And he had a lot of great colleagues. Dr. Chiotti was another one that helped him co-write the workbook. And so they were, and by the way, Dr. Pohl's an MD, and Dr. Chiotti was a clinical psychologist. And so together they had designed this program. But that was our big point, Ryder, was that we were working on how do we help you renegotiate this relationship? And all of our patients had a, painkiller addiction where they were trying to get out of pain. But your wife is right to have some concern about that, because that can become an endless tolerance chase, as Nick was pointing out, that never increases your functioning. Now, I respect a lot of the pain management docs that are out there, because these days a lot of them are not just handing over pills and walking away. They are trying to negotiate the relationship between tolerance and relief. But if they're doing the job correctly, and this is where I think Nick's right to also get into therapy, you've got to add that third, piece to this, where the mind-body relationship and the emotional relationship to pain are being evaluated. And that was one of the other things Paul would always teach us, is that to the brain, emotional pain and physical pain are indistinguishable. They are the same thing.
So true.
And so one will also lead to the other. And as the writer's talking about, that's a very sad story about, like, I can't tie a shoe. I'm not autonomous. And I was an oil worker. I was out there in the world.
Yeah, you did hard shit.
Yeah, I took care of business, and now I feel powerless, and I'm a dad, and I have kids, and they need me, and I want to do dad stuff with my kids. There's a lot of emotional pain, and that emotional pain also stimulates the physical pain. So the goal, Ryder, long term, is to redefine the relationship we have with pain and to discover as many interventions as we can, including medicinal ones, that all contribute together to giving us a tolerable relationship with that pain. And also understanding that there's going to be physical limitations for the rest of our lives, which I don't hear you in denial of in your letter, but changing our relationship to our body long term, which is a big part of this. So, all good things.
And I remember, we would talk about this all the time too, is like the issue with kind of the healthcare industry as a whole is like, that if you come in with a symptom, the doctor's job is to relieve the symptom. And it kind of started becoming the same way with pain.
Yes.
So when a person came in, with pain, then the doctor's like, okay, I need to relieve the pain.
Goal is to get you out of pain.
And then opiates came along and it's like, oh my God, this does the job. But that was actually kind of a revolutionary thing because previous generations didn't have that. Like my grandparents, my great-grandparents never had the expectation that they would be pain-free.
Right.
Their doctors never had the expectation that they would be pain-free.
That wasn't a clinical goal.
And so like the idea was like, okay, well, let's find a way that we can manage this pain. Then all of a sudden opiates came around and they're like, oh, we can have no pain.
Right.
And so if my job is to do what you, the patient, relieve whatever symptom you're coming in with, and I've got this tool, there we go. Yeah. We're set. And we don't really think anything beyond that.
Right.
And that became very problematic, obviously, as we found out. I
don't think your physicians are wildly irresponsible like your wife fears, but I tend to want to hear, I tend to champion what your wife is saying, right? Mm-hmm. Because again, Nick and I come from an addictions background. We've seen a lot of lives ruined by this shit.
Opioid-induced hyperalgesia.
Oh God, we didn't even mention that.
Yeah, and
Jesus.
it's not overly common, but it happens a lot. Where like, what happens with long-term use of opioids, your pain receptors become overly sensitive.
Yes.
So things that wouldn't normally cause pain actually cause pain.
Yes. I was going to ask you, I mean, this may be like kind of a stupid question, but that was going to be my question. Like, what is the problem? Like you said, your tolerance increases, then you increase. Like, where does it become a problem then? Is it just... Yeah, and so you're explaining some of that now, but does it affect the liver? Does it like, what do you know?
I mean, ultimately, it's just like anything, it's tolerance to alcohol, where it's like, okay, I have, 3 beers and I get a buzz. Right. And then all of a sudden 3 beers does nothing. And then it takes 4, then it takes 5, then it takes 6, then it takes, and it's just more and more and more. And ultimately it's the same thing, except instead of the buzz is being pain-free.
Right. My question is like, what's the problem with drinking 29 beers a day? And we know your liver will like die. So I guess I was wondering like with opiates,
ultimately,
like,
I mean, obviously there's liver damage.
Well, it's an unsustainable path.
But it's, at the end of the day, that's really what it is the pain's going to be there.
The treatment plan
no matter how many
keep
opioids.
Giving you this until you overdose and die.
And
that also, by the way, is one of the greater...
The
overdose will kill you and take you out of pain. But at some point, we're starting to get to a risk of that.
Yeah.
There was one client...
it seems like the type of ethics that Jim would question on his first day in a meeting with a lot of other people.
I'm here to question all the people that know what they're doing and say, well, what about this?
Give them a pen.
Just let them have it.
No, I had...
I was genuinely wondering that. Like,
I once had a client, he was a physician, and he was getting his doctor friends to write his prescriptions for him. Mm-hmm. And at one point, he was taking 22 hydrocodone twice a day.
Holy shit.
He was taking 22 at a time.
Kids, you got to work up to that shit.
Yeah.
Don't go out right now and take 22 hydrocodone.
Don't do that.
And he told me, he was like, I thought no human being could survive taking 10.
Yeah.
And I'm taking 22.
Yeah.
And he said, if I take 21, I am in incredible pain.
Yeah. Worse than the original.
Yeah.
And that's what hyperalgesia is.
Yeah, that's what hyperalgesia is.
But no, this is the problem again with opioids and why the opioid crisis became what it was, because you'd start, like we'd have a kid doing athletics, right? And they'd twist their ankle, they tear their ACL, whatever.
Yep.
And so then we give them like fucking hydrocodone or give them fucking Dilaudid, take them out of pain, because that's the only goal we have is that if you're out of the pain, then you're not complaining, you do your math homework, right? Well, the problem is it impairs your functioning too.
Right.
Nobody's like passing their SATs whenever they're loaded with fucking Dilaudid. So now it's got these emotional effects, these cognitive effects. It's and then you've got this hyperalgesia effect. Now you're having to increase the dosage to stay out of pain. So you're chasing the dragon, right?
Yeah.
And then like this happened with that physician, more and more pills, but at some point you cap out on the amount of pills they can legally give you. And so then the next move is very, very obvious.
Well, and It was, I mean,
Fentanyl.
it was work.
It is. No, that's
Yeah,
where I'm
really
going with
is.
it. You start illicitly getting pills, and then at some point, it's cheaper to move on to heroin.
Yeah.
The heroin is way the fuck cheaper than all the pills, so then you start getting lesser amounts of heroin at a cheaper price, and then you start getting addicted to that, and then you have to escalate that up to intravenous use, then you have to start putting in fentanyl. That's the entire runaway effect.
Which was really interesting in that job because that, like a lot of outside of that, when I worked at other agencies, a lot of the heroin addicts and whoever I was working with that was addicted to opiates, like it was like, well, yeah, I started using alcohol, then, kind of dabbled with meth for a little bit, then got into the opiates, blah, blah, blah. But at that clinic, it was a whole different population. It was, I've never touched substances. Yeah. And then I had a knee injury.
Right. It was dentists,
it was,
airline
That's the
pilots.
Yeah,
status.
that's always it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were not the people that you think of. But that was one of the reasons they never got healthy, is because they didn't feel safe at rehabs, because that didn't define them. But they were absolutely dependent on the substance, and that was where. But man, opioids are a special kind of hell.
They're scary.
Like,
They're
and they're a
scary to
bitch and a
look
half
at.
to get off of. Like the old joke was like, alcohol is the one drug that the withdrawal could kill you. Opioids, you'll wish for death.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you'll wish they could kill you.
That's
by
the old joke?
stopping them.
Very
it's-
funny joke.
It's funnier when I tell it. But
Dr. Cole didn't like that joke either.
Day one.
Trying to win back the audience.
hey, I know you didn't like my thing yesterday, but I got a joke
Got
for
some
you today.
zingers.
Am I invited to rounds again?
I brought you another pen. Anyway, Ryder.
And I know it may have sounded like Jim was recommending on a financial basis that you just skip straight to heroin.
Yeah.
That is not the official Pod Therapy platform.
Allegedly.
Thank you.
That's the Dave Ramsey platform.
Jim's platform.
responsibility.
Mr. Jim Jobin.
Mr. Jim.
Anyway, Ryder, this is a tough one, but I appreciate your wife's wisdom in this. I think she's pushing in the right direction. But I would encourage more education for everybody involved, right? Like when we're working as a team, if we can ever bring wife to the pain management, I think that's important too, because then she can be a part of this. She can see, hey, there's a reason why he's on these things. Here's my plan. Here's how I'm helping your husband not fall down this cliff of tolerance building. Here's how we're protecting against hyperalgesia. And here's my treatment plan for him, right? Because I want his functioning to increase. And maybe I do want to taper him down over time. These surgeries kind of just happened. And so I think just continued education for both of you, making this a negotiated thing, though, because that's another thing, too. There's this thing there's a myth that these medicines are just pain medicines. And that's not true. They are psychoactive substances. They have an effect on your mood. They have an effect on your emotions. You are a different person when you are on them. Yeah. We have a member of our family that had a devastating injury and became dependent on these for the rest of their lives. And it affects the family because, like, we can all tell whenever you've had your last dose. We can all tell whenever you're on more. You're loopy. You're not interesting. Like, you're not making any sense. You're drooling in the corner. Like, you're forgetting half the things you've already said. And, like, it's not just a physical medicine. Mm-mm. It does affect you. It affects your emotions. It affects your emotional availability. And that's another thing, too, is when you're not on them, you become like stress intolerant. And that's another portion of it, too. So, Ryder, your wife's not off base for being an invested stakeholder in this. I just encourage this as often as possible to include her in your treatment, to include her in the education.
Yeah.
And yes, to let her ask challenging questions to your doctors as well, if you choose to, so that they can know, like, hey, the goal is not just to sedate him and have him drooling out of the side of his mouth. The goal is to improve functioning and regain his life.
And again, like the big thing that to kind of summarize all of my points, I would say, don't feel like you can only fight this on one front. You're going to have to fight this on all fronts. And that doesn't mean just medication. I mentioned exercise. I know that there's some programs that focus on like yoga for pain, chronic pain, therapy. We already talked about that. I mean, you're going to have to come at this from all angles. That's your best approach when dealing with chronic pain, is attack it from all angles and not just relying on opiates or narcotics.
Yeah, Ryder. Good luck with this. And, the other thing that you asked about is how to tie your shoelaces. And what I like to do is I do like the bunny ears, okay? And then the bunny's got to go around the bush and then underneath. And that's whenever you pull them down.
It's 2025. Nobody has a bush.
I was just going to say bush.
Did you hear that, what is it? What's the pubic lice called? Crabs. Crabs is like an endangered species now. because we all just shave them, so it's not around.
geez.
70s is, I think, pinnacle crabs. I feel like that's when everybody had the fro bush going on. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're ending the show, probably forever. You're listening to Pod
I'm
Therapy.
gonna call that doctor.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Today's episode is brought to you by Robert Bounty Jr., Mentz, Kayla Lansbury, Kevin Chamberlain, Ben Stanley, Adam Hathaway, Dan Martin, Lib, Hey Yo, and Andrew Langmead. And if you would like to sponsor the show, become a therapy producer at patreon.com/therapy.
Pubic lice are not endangered. That is a myth. Yeah,
Let's ask the koalas.
that's it.
That's what I think. I'll bet you they have quite a few. As we wrap up the
Their
show...
fingerprints are all over this.
They're lousy with them. As we wrap up the show, we want to remind you that you can sign up at patreon.com/therapy. You can get our extended show ad-free a day early, as well as enjoy our live chat Discord community and our weekly deep dives, interviews, skill shares, research, roundups, and rants. Who's new to the Theraparty, Nick?
All right, I'm going to do my best here.
Oh, this is a great name. Thank you, whoever wrote this.
Ravakirian, Kawade.
Koala.
I think.
I think it's Rave Koala. I think that's where we're going with that.
Rave koala.
Thank you for joining at the Therapal level. And we've got 3 new Therapods. We got Michael F., we got J.W. Reynolds, and we got Stacy. Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome, friends. And of course, we'd like to praise our Theody, the resident lord, the Dark Lord himself, Jim's Fascia. And of course, thank our benevolent, revered, generous, and flagrantly pro-therapy diehards who love you all so much, they give till it hurts, the Therapartners Dirty B and Pickett. And we want to especially thank our bosses, the mysterious and shrouded Illuminati members of our fan club, the Theraproducers. Thank you, Jake Schneider, Myra, Robert Brownie Jr. Mint, Smitty Scoop, Ben Don, Judy Schneider, Kayla Lansbury, Malia, Leon Kassab, Mason Miller, Richard fucking Macy, Carolyn Albert, Kevin Chamberlain, Tess Miller, Sammy Scoop, Ben Stanley Slapping Your Face, Sarah Smith, Adam Hathaway, Byler T, Mike Helm, Paris, Darren Cunningham, Lib, Team Monaco, Thunder Cougar Falcon Scoop, Heyo, Oscar Swanrose, A Sunny Boy, Slurpy Kaye Motherfucker, Sandra McWaffle, Dan Martin, Hannah Marie, Andrew Langmead, Emma Kane, Alina, Cody DeLorean Guy, and Sam Cohn.
And if you'd like to hear this episode uncut and unedited,
And why wouldn't you?
and enjoy our spontaneous side projects, go to patreon.com/therapy. And thank you for supporting mental health.
That's all the time we got for this week's session. I want to thank our landlords, Matt and Mattingly's Ice Cream Social Podcast. And thanks to all of you who contributed to our show today. We really appreciate it. Remember, Pod Therapy isn't something to keep all to yourself. Share this episode with the world. Tag us on the socials when you do. It's at PodTherapyGuys on Instagram, Threads, Twitter, and Blue Sky. It's /PodTherapy on Facebook. And don't forget about all the extra goodies at patreon.com/therapy.
Do you want to submit a question to the show? You can ask anonymously at podtherapy.net, email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com, or click on the link in the episode description to be taken to our anonymous Google form. I'm Nick Tangeman.
I'm Whitney.
I'm Jim.
Thanks, and we'll see you for your appointment next week.
Bum, bum. Bum, 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 bum. Koala
You know, I
Camellia.
think this might be a violation of the HIPAA requirements for everybody who's because their information is on this paper
They
that
can
we
do
all
anything.
have.
It could get
just
thrown in
write
the
it like
trash.
this.
Anyone could grab it.
I don't even understand the argument.
I don't
What
either.
was that?
At the
I
time
was
it
thinking
made
that
sense.
earlier. I was like, wouldn't it not be a HIPAA violation until they shared that information with someone else?
Yeah.
Just having
did
the
a HIPAA
information on a
training.
piece of
You're
paper.
correct.
Brand new. I didn't know.
This is a potential problem here that I've just spotted on the papers with the things and the writings.
Here's the great thing is that
Jerry Lewis bit.
It's more like the guy from The Simpsons who's a Jerry Lewis bit.
I got it.
you've,
They're like a Jerry Lewis bit.
A bit of a
once
bit.
removed.
Bit of a bit.
you're so embarrassed by this that you've forgotten about how embarrassed you were about the Pledge of Allegiance and the Dare thing.
Oh yeah, there's that too. Yeah.
The next.
I wasn't
also
embarrassed. I was proud.
Oh,
It was a great day in my life.
And pretending that the drug addict had cocaine.
That's all I think of every time.
I thought
I'm
we
like,
let that
okay.
shit go.
No, I don't know what. You always
I
think we
literally-
let it go.
Hold
We've
on.
never let it go.
I literally told a fellow colleague about that
No.
story because they called me and you know
Violates your NDA.
no, that's not part of my review. Take it off, Nick.
It's going to show up in your review.
No,
Is a
because
snitch.
I don't know if y'all do this, but they called me and they were like, "Hey, so I know like we're all professional and everything, but like just let me tell you, let me just tell you this one thing that's like whatever." And I was like, "Oh, don't worry, as long as you haven't done this, you're good."
Using me as the story that makes other people feel better.
They're like, "Okay, it's
You
cool,
think
let's
that's
go."
an ethics violation? My buddy planted dope on addicts.
It was great.
Oh, whatever. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Go.